Welcome to the final theory in Theory Month. Ah, Mass Effect. It's just like Minecraft to me. I have a love-hate relationship with it. And by that I mean, I just keep going back to it. And by that I mean, I beat Mass Effect and don't play it for months. And then go back to it again. And I continuously play hours upon hours of Mass Effect when I could be doing something useful. That's the life. And with the series of games with hours of storyline and side quests, of course there are theories. The most noble, of course, is the indoctrination theory. After Mass Effect 3 and its disappointing ending to an epic trilogy, fans wanted answers to all the plot holes and stupid meanings in the ending. Now I could do a video on the really famous indoctrination theory, but everyone's done it. So instead of talking about the infamous ending, I will be discussing another theory that also involves Shepard, because everything in the universe revolves around Shepard. Well, to be honest, some may not even consider this a theory. Honestly, I'm surprised that not many have tried to disprove this at all. It has been so accepted by the fans of the series. They even talk about in the popular web series Did You Know Gaming. But when I first heard of it, I always thought there was something wrong with it. And if you're still wondering what I am talking about, I am referring to the Rachni songs in Mass Effect 1. And the question I have always asked, is it possible? Can Shepard really hear the songs of the Rachni? Let's look at the evidence. Well, let's first start off and discuss what the Rachni are. The Rachni are an extinct insect-like species from the planet Suin that threatened Citadel space roughly 2,000 years before Shepard's story during the Rachni Wars. The Rachni were driven to expand and defend their territory. They were eventually defeated and completely eradicated by the Krogan. In Mass Effect 1, the Rachni aren't as extinct as the galaxy was led to believe. At the remote Peak 15 facility on Noveria, Commander Shepard encounters Rachni workers and soldiers that have escaped from the labs. The company renting Peak 15, Binary Helix, has found a Rachni ship adrift in space carrying eggs in cryogenic suspension. One of the eggs was recovered and brought to Noveria for study. Binary Helix planned to clone the Rachni inside and create an army, but when the egg was hatched, the researchers realized that this was no ordinary egg, but the egg of a Rachni queen. After the queen reached maturity, she began to lay eggs, but the newborn Rachni were removed from her presence by Binary Helix once hatched, in an attempt to control them. The same queen later explains to Shepard that the Rachni elders speak to their children by singing. This song comforts them. It is apparent without the song from the elders, Rachni workers and soldiers are driven insane by the silence and will attack anything on sight out of fear. The queen believes they are beyond help and asks Shepard to kill them. Now, I need to explain more here. The Rachni communicate to each other with songs. The queens are powerful and intelligent creatures who guide the soldiers and workers of their broods with a form of telepathic song, which also allows them to speak through the dead of other species. The queen also explains that the way Shepard communicates is weird, so she uses her powers to talk through a dead Asari soldier. Now this is all confirmed that she could talk through the dead and talk to her children from far away with singing. And it is explained in the game that the Rachni communicate with telepathy. So what is the theory about then? Well, for that we need to travel to the moon. On the hill near the crashed CCCP Luna 23 on the moon, you can hear a noise. The noise has been described by fans as the Rachni song, even though BioWare has never confirmed this. Even though this is a popular belief among fans, I've always questioned it. Is this possible? Can Shepard actually hear the Rachni song from the moon? Let's look into this. Well, first we should note that it should be impossible for Rachni to be on the moon, so this song would be a noise traveling through space. Second, the moon isn't the only place you can hear the Rachni song. The The song can be heard in multiple places in the galaxy. Now, does it being heard in multiple areas add to the theory? Well, let's look at telepathy. Now, if this telepathic song is traveling through space and planets, is it possible to hear? Let's examine this in space. In space, there's no air, so there's no sound. That we can hear with our ears at least. What we can hear is electromagnetic vibrations. That's how we examine noises from space. Though we cannot hear it with our ears, we can record them, like this audio clip of noise from the moon. But how is this possible? Well, first, how do we hear sounds from space? In empty space, there is no air. And what we call sound is actually vibrations in the air. But light waves and radio waves are what we hear in space. But these waves are not sound, but light. Light does not need air to travel, but then you don't hear it. You see it, or it's interpreted by your radio set and then translated into sound. So the light waves have been heard as sound through a recording or even a radio. Now, here's a fun thing to try. On an old radio, turn the dial between the radio stations and you'll hear noise, and it may sound like nothing to you. But in reality, 10% of that noise, what you're hearing, are light waves from space. Cool, right? Okay, back to the theory. Now let's look at telepathy. Telepathy is a transmission of information from one person to another without using any known sensory channels or physical interaction. The term was coined in 1882 by the classic scholar Frederick W. H. Myers, the founder of the Society for Physical Research. However, even with the variety of tests that have been performed to demonstrate telepathy, there is no solid scientific evidence that this power exists. A panel commissioned by the United States National Research Council to study paranormal claims conclude that even with 130 years of recorded scientific research, they said that there is no solid evidence to prove that telepathy is real. Mostly, telepathy has been described as the transfer of thoughts or feelings between two or more subjects through PSI. And for my studies, PSI pretty much means unknown factors. Now, we were trying to find out how telepathy waves are heard in space, so let's look at this in a different light. Ha! You get it? Because talking about light waves? Dang, I'm not funny. Anyway, instead of telepathy being powered by an unknown factor, let's say that telepathy is actually radio waves created by the mind. Now, this may sound crazy, but just hear me out. Radio waves and brain waves are both forms of electromagnetic radiation, waves of energy that travel at the speed of light. The difference between the brain waves and radio waves and other electromagnetic waves lies in their frequency. Radio waves, which also includes other wireless transmission signals, as well as other natural signals in the same frequency, peak at between 50 and 1000 megahertz. That's between 50 million and 1 billion oscillations per second. The human brain also emits waves, like when a person focuses his or her attention or remembers something. This activity fires thousands of neurons simultaneously at the same frequency, generating a wave, but at a rate closer to 10 to 100 cycles per second. Now, brainwaves are extremely hard to measure, but from what we can tell, they're a lot weaker than radio waves. Now, does this disprove that the Rachni are even telepathic? No. We were just examining the brainwaves of humans. What we need to know is how powerful the Rachni are. Well, pretty damn powerful if they can talk through a dead person right in front of you in the game just with telepathy. The Rachni's power isn't exactly explained that much in the game, but their powers are, well, very powerful. Look at it this way. They can use telepathic powers to talk through the dead and control their soldiers with their mind. To do that, they must have one strong brain, and that is the point. The brain is powerful. What it can do for us is astonishing. Now think about what it could do for the Rachni. These creatures that have been around for 2 cycles in the game. 2! As Javik explains, who is a Prothean from the last cycle, they were there in the Prothean cycle. And now they're here in your cycle. Not only were they somehow clever enough to avoid the Reapers, but as I said before, they can talk through the dead and control their units just with their brain. They have been around for a lot longer than humans and are capable of amazing things in the game. So in the game, maybe their brains are capable of creating radio waves, which is how they communicate from far distances in the game, and maybe use that to communicate through the dead. The Rachni use telepathy to communicate and control, and they could be using their powerful brains to create these radio waves that do it. And to bring that back all the way to the beginning with, can we hear the Rachni Song in space? If the song is actually telepathy, which happens to be radio waves being created from their brains, then yes. Then we can hear their songs. If it was being recorded. Now, we can't hear radio waves with our ears unless we're hearing it through a recorder or, of course, a radio. Now, this doesn't disprove this theory at all. It is the future. There are mass relays and laser guns. Now, is it too stretched to say that those fancy suits that Shepard is wearing may have a device that can record or let you hear waves in space? It may be a bit unpractical, but still could exist. That is very possible. So it is very possible to hear the Rachni Song in space, but many forget that this isn't the only place where you can hear it. As I mentioned before, the noise can be heard on many different planets in the game. This could possibly be explained with how I explained that you could hear radio waves on an old radio. Shepard could possibly hear the songs on other worlds with the technology I proposed he or she had in his or her suit. But with an old radio, we could only hear 10% of space with it. Wouldn't the song be harder to hear, or maybe weaker? Well, remember, this is the future, and technology would be way more advanced, making us more able to listen to things from outer space. So it would be possible also for Shepard to hear the song on a planet just like he could in space, possibly. So let's recap here. The song can be heard in space and in multiple planets. It can be heard because of the Rachni's amazing brain power, which can create radio waves to communicate with other Rachni and talk through the dead. Radio waves can be heard through a recorder of sorts, and may be installed in Shepard's armor. So Shepard can hear Rachni songs on planets and on the moon. Heck, maybe we don't even need recorders to pick up the Rachni song. In Mass Effect 2, you meet Asari, who gives you a message from the Rachni, if you choose to save him in the first game. She mentions that the Rachni sang her the song. Maybe the Rachni can tone down the power in the brain to sing the song to other creatures, like Asari or human. Like I said, they would have to tone down the power because our brains couldn't understand it if they used all of their brain power. Huh. Here I was trying to disprove this theory the whole time, and I guess I just made it more real. All this is very possible, telepathy and everything. I guess maybe I was too down on the Rachni song. I've learned a lot from this. Maybe I shouldn't be too...
We think of the Rachni as telepathic, but there's really no such thing. At short range, the Queen uses pheromones to give orders. At long range, she uses an organic kind of quantum entanglement communicator. Whatever Leviathan does must be similar.
What? You mean the Rachni aren't telepathic? Anne Bryson from the Leviathan DLC explains that the Queen is actually not telepathic, but uses pheromones for short-range communication. Across the vast distances of space, Rachni Queens are speculated to have used some sort of organic quantum entanglement communicator to control their populace, similar to how Leviathan uses his artifacts in the DLC. Okay, so the Rachni are speculated by Dr. Anne Bryson, who knows a lot, and I mean a lot, about the Rachni. It says she studied them for a long time. This would make more sense actually due to the fact that the Rachni are basically giant advanced insects. But what does this mean for us? Well, pheromones are a secreted or excreted chemical factor that triggers a social response in members of the same species or sometimes different species. So it's a chemical. Can we even hear chemicals in space? Surely the pheromones can travel long distances, there's no question about that. But can we hear pheromones as they pass by in space? No. No, we cannot. I researched this for hours. I even tried to find audio recordings of pheromones. Not even one recording, even on Earth. Pheromones are a silent command chemical that is sent from one living creature to another. The pheromones are possibly in space, but they cannot be heard. They are not electromagnetic light waves traveling through space. They are chemicals with no noise. I know Dr. Anne is actually speculating here, but she has an extensive amount of work studying the Rachni, way more than I do. She spent so many years trying to figure out the secrets behind these creatures and possibly solve how they communicate. They aren't even telepathic. They communicate like how many insects do, with pheromones. I almost feel disappointed about this. I came in here thinking I could disprove this theory, and I almost felt like I was proven wrong. In the end, I thought I had discovered something that was very cool in one of my favorite video games using science. But in the end, it was sort of crushed, and now I have also discovered that the noise can be heard somewhere else as well, in another video game. In the game Unreal 2 The Awakening by Epic Games, the same sound can be heard perfectly on planet Severnaya. So this sound can be heard in multiple places in Mass Effect and another game. It is likely that BioWare just used the same audio clip and put it in their game. So this famous noise on the moon isn't the song of the Rachni, it's just a noise that BioWare put in their game to make the game feel more immersive. And I know I'm comparing this video game logic to real life logic, but the world of Mass Effect is more close to the real world than you might think. I won't show the video, but world-famous physicist Michio Kaku described how the world of Mass Effect science is very possible. This theory was fun to study and it was a great experience, but after all the studying over everything, the radio waves, brain waves, electromagnetic radiation, the Rachni, pheromones, and Dr. Ann Bryson, I have to say that I believe the sound that is on the moon and many other places in the game is not the song of the Rachni. This is just a noise used by BioWare. There are no Rachni songs on the moon. Hey, that was fun. I was glad to finally look more into the noises on the moon in Mass Effect. And thank you for joining me. Theory month may be over, but of course there are more videos that will be coming up in the future. So please click that subscribe button to keep updated on future videos. Also follow me on Facebook and Twitter. And if you're in the mood for more theories, here are my past 3 theory videos that I did for Theory Month. Thank you all for watching, and have a happy Halloween.